Hi, and welcome to Business Spotlight Series. I'm Martin Bailey, and joining us today is Will Ocean, Managing Director and Founder of Maintain Reliability Limited. Welcome, Will, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really feeling really good today, man. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on your platform, on your show as well. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, our pleasure entirely. So look, to start us off, Will, why don't you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Will Ocean. I'm Managing Director and Founder of Maintain Reliability. Started the business in 2017. So essentially, it's probably quite a big story, but I try to condense it into kind of a bit of a short view because we don't want to be here forever. But I love engineering, got involved with it from an early age, love fixing things, love how things work, love just the process of manufacturing. Like how is that made? How is peanut butter made? How is insulation board made? I'm always very curious in terms of that. Always draws people into engineering, draw me straight in. So I went into did HNC early draws into electric engineering, and then got introduced into electromechanical world with a company called Erics. Learned my craft there. Learn how to wind motors, repair motors, change bearings, gearboxes, pumps, kind of the electromechanical world, all the machinery and the equipment that would run a factory, we repaired essentially. From that, we got involved with something called condition monitoring. So instead of repairing these things, went into an avenue where we'd go test them. And actually what we had to do is diagnostics on basically machinery or bearings. And they called it condition monitoring was the name, but from condition monitoring, you'll be able to do vibration analysis, thermal imaging, that type of thing, and really got involved with vibration analysis. Grew that side of the business for the company very quickly in a short period of time. Unfortunately, at the end for me, there wasn't enough for me to stay. So decided to create my own process because I had a lot of different ideas that unfortunately weren't able to materialize at that company. Started Maintain Reliability in 2017. It was just me for kind of, 4 years. The first year, absolutely crazy, difficult, trying to get yourself out there. Really humbled myself, thought I'd be busy in 6 months. It definitely wasn't, if that makes sense. Definitely struggled, but I was really grateful for that struggle, if I'm honest. It kind of taught me how to become more resilient and understand what business was. Went on a bit of a personal development journey myself, read books after books after books, tried to really improve myself to be able to understand, customers, sales, that type of thing, business leadership and all them qualities. And then after kind of 2 years, got really busy just myself, loving the work I was doing, working for very big companies all around the UK and obviously within my region in Norfolk. And COVID hit. And it was just the craziest roller coaster ride of my life because I didn't know what was going to happen, if the business was going to even survive it. Luckily, I was very, savvy and had some money saved and all the rest of it. And I'll be honest, after COVID, when everything come back out again, the demand went through the roof for what we do. It really spurred this new energy within the reliability sector, which was very surprising. And from that, just capitalized it and took quite a few risks. So I took in Will, operations director. He's an amazing, passionate young lad that we together really formulated a strategy and plan and really kind of gel well together. And from that point, within 3 years, there's now 8 of us Maintain Reliability operating nationwide, doing the detect, solve, improve model where we don't just, identify the issues and problems. What we try to do is solve them as well by engineering services and using all of that knowledge that we learned from back in the day in the electromechanical world and injecting that into our business nowadays. And actually trying to say, well, great, we can detect issues and find them by using techniques like vibration testing and thermal imaging before these assets fail on site. That costs companies so much money in downtime and production. How can we actually come and solve these issues as well, rather than give loads of problems? How can we be part of the solution? So we create this model called Detect, Solve, Improve, where we'd go find the issues with detection with condition monitoring techniques. We go in with our expertise in terms of understanding how failure mode is and solve it by actually changing the bearing or doing the laser alignment that makes the precision alignment better for the asset for reliability, or going to balance that motor that we say that had the issue from our detect side. And then from the improve bit, it was was how we did that was in a way that allowed the asset to have longer life, longer reliability. That's what everybody wants from the assets. They want to be able to rely on them, which is what reliability is. So essentially from that, we created the business Detect, Solve, Improve, and we're here now out trying to be able to improve reliability together and really try to help the industry in the UK provide that service.
What a fantastic story. I'll tell you, it sounds exciting, this journey.
I tried to condense it into a small one. I mean, I probably could have been there for hours talking about it, but again.
I can tell that passion's there.
Thank you.
So rewind the clock. You're back in 2017. You've been through this journey in the last, what is that, six odd years. If you were to start the business again,
Oh,
yeah,
I like this. Yeah.
back to square one, what would you do differently?
Do you know what I would do differently? I would, if I was to start again, I mean, I think the idea I had was right in terms of I kind of really understood what the customers needed, right? That wasn't an issue at the time. And I don't think that was wrong, even from the get-go. But I think the one thing that I didn't appreciate at the start was the power of early networking and getting yourself out. LinkedIn for me was such an important vessel for my business and growth. And I only really figured that out probably 6 months kind of in. It was way too late. Like if I would have hit it from the get-go and just started to connect with the right people and the relevant people in the industry. And I'm a passionate person anyway. I've always been passionate about engineering. I love it. It's my life. But if I'd have just talked about it more and I did eventually do that. And as you can see, the LinkedIn presence is massive now because we do that. And we do talk about our wins and successes and how much we love what we do. But I just wish I'd done it earlier because I think that would have really shown people a lot quicker. And I think that for me was a real pinnacle part of our success in terms of especially networking. And how great is it that this day and age you've got that ability to be able to network on a digital social platform that allows you to get your message out to so many people for free, essentially, you know.
So I suppose your message there to people generally, do not underestimate the power of you.
Yeah, and personal brand as well.
Brand of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maintain has definitely grown its own brand in terms of what that is, but that's all stemmed from the personal brand, really.
Yeah.
Because I think every single company does end up becoming an extension of that personal brand or that passion or that person or the values that person has towards their business. And a lot of people, I feel, don't think they've got anything valuable to say. And I think that's rubbish. I think, like, even if one person or 2 or 3 people value what you're saying, you could have 2 likes on that post and you might feel deflated from that. Oh, I've only got 2 likes on it. But imagine them 2 likes are from people that are going to be lifelong customers for yours forever. That's value. So I think a lot of people do get caught into the vanity metrics of life and, oh, that didn't do so well, so I shouldn't do it. You've always got something valuable to say. And I think as well, sometimes as long as you're getting your message out, then you're speaking your truth. There's value in that, you know. So starting there is not easy though, still, but
no, it's not. I mean, it's interesting. A lot of business owners, focus on the value of their brand, i.e., the business brand, and they underestimate the value of personal brand.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sometimes
that personal brand can be even more powerful than the business brand.
I think so, yeah. And I think that the thing is, when it comes down to like business, it's a business. It has an identity in terms of the brand that you kind of grow with it, and it has a bit of an identity in terms of what you do, and B, kind of how you do it. But the personal brand is like, it's so much easier for me to show passion. People, when they see me, they see an extension of Maintain that's all ingrained within that Maintain brand itself. But they see me passionate because I am a person and I'm relatable, and the stuff I'm talking about, people can relate to. So, like, as well, it's a lot easier to watch a video online with someone talking really passionately about what they love and the way they can help you, opposed to then a corporate video with all the branding on it. And okay, it might be very informative, but for me, I think personal interaction is what human connection is what we actually seek in a lot of the time. And I think a lot of people try to hide behind these really high budget videos, and essentially a lot of the time they're not actually having the effect of what you personally could bring. So I'm not saying the other videos are not important. I still think that's good to do, but at the same time, it's like I think a lot of people are focusing on that a hell of a lot more, and the cost of that is a lot more than you just jumping on sometimes and just giving your thoughts as well. And whether you do that through a podcast medium, whether you do that through, just talking to the camera, you have to develop confidence, because it's really difficult for some people to do this. It really is. Like when Will first come into my business, I remember I was just pick up the phone, let's go. And I'd pick up the phone sometimes and do some selfie videos, and I'd just jump him in it, and he'd be like, and I'm like, I didn't really realize that, and it took a while to get him into this. But when he got it, when he started doing it more regularly, he was like, oh, well, there's nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. He'd watch a video about, oh, that's actually quite good.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm actually talking some sense here. This is great. Yeah, post it. So I think people worry a little bit about how they're going to be perceived, and
yeah.
that's natural. You're always going to get that. But
But they
when you
underestimate the authenticity as well. You know, if you're natural with it, you're authentic, and people buy into that.
I believe so, and I think as well, if you're starting a business this day and age, if you're not doing it, you are missing out because there's other competitors that will be, and I think that's the fear. What you don't want to do is end up becoming forgotten about because you haven't put yourself out there when your service is really good. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's really beneficial to be out, and I think a lot of people are now trying to do that more. I don't know about you, but I've seen it a hell of a lot more in the last year or so.
Yes, no, I agree. And I mean, obviously, in the last 6 years, you've been in a journey. It was, it was you in 2017. There's now 8 of you within the business, and so, in part of that journey, what have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began the business?
I think about people and learning about, you could have the right people to be able to do the tasks that you have within your business. With engineering, it can be difficult as well because especially what we essentially sell in terms of service-based offering, there's 3 parts of that business model that can differ. Do you know what I mean? So when you are recruiting, there's obviously getting the skill sets or being able to understand someone who has the capabilities to learn them skills can be difficult as well sometimes, especially when it comes to engineering, because some people would have the ability from a very early stage of their career to be able to be trained quite quickly into these things and be able to really grow into the role, whereas
Yeah.
some people may not have the ability to do that. So when you're trying to employ and upskill people, it's being able to tell if they've got untapped potential. That can be really difficult because everyone starts from the same
How have you gone about
place.
that? And what have you
So
done?
the way that we've done it is in terms of employ an attitude and having that want to be able to do something different. That's really worked well for us. Essentially, what we've done this year, we've lost 3 people in very quick succession, but we've employed 3 people in very quick succession. But the strategy before, we didn't really have a strategy, if I'm honest. It was kind of a bit like, he looks good, let's employ him. But we never really, the thing is with recruitment is probably the most important part of your important part of what your business will do. And if you don't have a strategy, don't expect it to go well if it goes wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might get lucky and you might get a few guys that fit the bill. And when we first started employed, we've got some great guys, honestly. Like, some of the guys that we got initially at first had the right attitude. But I think sometimes when you do get 3 or 4 good hires right without a strategy, you expect the next person on to be like the other ones. Does that make sense? But then when you get one that's just not, you're like, oh my God, this is completely not what I expected. So the idea is, I think for us, is learning that, attitude is really important for us. And I don't think you can teach it. I really don't. I think you either have a very good attitude and kind of, being grateful as well. Having grateful people is quite a deep rooted thing. And I think if you've got people that are really willing to be able to put the work in, that are grateful and have a good attitude, they can go anywhere within your organization. So I think we now really have a look at them attributes as a main thing, especially when it comes down to company culture, because we want a good company culture. We want an environment where everyone feels like they want to be there, if that makes sense, rather than an environment that can be adversely affected by just a couple of personalities. Really, it can really have a big effect on your business. And I never really knew the impact that could have. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
So you talk about company culture. So how do you identify that culture during the recruitment process? How do you measure the candidates against that?
Well, I think for us, it was more about kind of seeing where they're at in terms of what they believe the industry could be.
Okay.
Their understanding in terms of, how do I make things better? Because usually people with really good attitudes want to improve things. They want to make things better. They want to have an impact in terms of what they do. And I think, as well as Maslow's hierarchy kind of says, that the ability to be able to master something is important to someone who's going to be able to continually be on the ladder for learning and change. So I think the attitude comes from that want to be able to improve. And I think there's some people out there that potentially won't have that drive so much. They kind of want to turn up, do a good job, don't get me wrong. And I think the industry needs them people in terms of doers or implementers. But what we're looking for at Maintain, we're looking for people that want to make things better, because look at our company culture, what we're trying to do. The tech solve improve. We want to be able to improve. We want to be able to go to the next level, go to the next extra mile. How do we do that? How do we make these things happen? Like, there's a lot of big dreams that I've got to maintain and a lot of real hard challenges that we are faced with, but we need people that are able to be able to have the right attitude to help us all get there together as a team. So I think really seeing essentially within that process who's really looking to make things better, who's them real engineers out there. I always say it, the real engineers are the ones that just there's it's not like it's never perfect, but they're always looking to improve that version of something, or how do we make it better? How do we drive more value? Always thinking about that next step ahead. And they're the type of people that I believe, the last three hires that we've had, they're all really interested in being able to do that, regardless of where they are skill wise or whatever. They just want to do better. They want to make themselves better. And that obviously in turn will help our customers as well.
If they're all anywhere near as passionate as you, I'll tell you what, it'll be a cracking.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, again, for me as well, though, I know obviously you do coaching, mine, which is great. And I think that's amazing. You probably get such a great feeling out of being able to help people. And I think I'm the same as well. And even though as much, I'm only 33, I'm not the most experienced in most things. Let's be honest, I've learned a lot by experience the last 2 years, 3 years, like a lot. But for me, is to be able to give people opportunities, and especially grateful people that really appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like recently, we've kind of had two people come on. They've got young families, and they haven't really had many opportunities within life, and they're kind of feeling like they're a bit of a rut, really. But now they've, even one of them have been here for 3 months now, and he's saying to me like how he can come home and tell his kids that he's making a great, honest living, and the pictures that he's taken of his motor showing his son, and his son's, oh, that's great, Dad. I love what you're doing. That's really cool. You're great. You're an engineer, and he can call himself an engineer. For me, like that, I didn't realize how much of a great feeling that would
Yeah,
be.
that's
For me.
huge. That's
Do you know
huge.
what I mean? And and that also makes me also want to grow to the fact to be able to give more people of these
Yeah,
opportunities as well.
yeah.
So there's that side of it as well, which I didn't realize how great, how much of a good feeling it would be to be able to help people as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So look, I mean, obviously, we all start business, we all go into business, and we've got our ideas and all the rest of it. And from your perspective, what do you think some of the common misconceptions are out there about running a business? And how do you address that? How do you address them?
It's difficult because I think a lot of people start a business coming, you've got the entrepreneurial dream right now. And don't get me wrong, you go onto to Facebook, you go onto TikTok, you go onto Instagram reels, and you're seeing these reels, you're seeing the short form content that's like, yeah, become an entrepreneur, earn the money, all these cars, all this lavish life. And it's kind of almost given a bit of a false introduction to what it is, because a lot of it is instant gratification. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of young people are seeing this, and of course they want that life. Of course they want that, because it instantly kind of gives them that, oh, that would be great. But the idea of it as well, what I don't think it is helping is the fact that it's not overnight. Like the first year, I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. I was making big sacrifices, and it was so tough. It was so difficult. I mean, there's fewer times I had a few job offers within that time as well, and really, really good money as well for salary. I mean, more money than I've ever earned, and I've had to turn them things down because I knew that the longer term vision for me, that wasn't what I wanted as a personal vision. So I think a lot of misconception is that when you do start a business, that it's easy. It's not. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it does get easier. It does. Once you start to figure it out and you start to learn the lessons, of course it does. But there's always constant growth, and like for me, even now that I know there's so many things I need to still learn. So it's almost humbling yourself within this spectrum of life as well. Because I think sometimes when you think you've made it, it's like, well, no, there's another mountain. There's another mountain. It's never ending. And I suppose as well with this coaching side of things as well, is just understanding that there's, you think sometimes that you're fully there, but when you realize you're not, but then it sets you up for this other new journey of this constant continual improvement, a bit like we do in reliability. We kind of do that with ourselves of like, how do I become better? How do I become a higher performing individual? How do I become fitter and better in my personal life? And how do I become a better father? How do I, all these different things as well that allow us to be able to, it's not easy. I think the misconception of starting a business is it looks great on the outside when people have been there and done it for a while, and all the rest of it, but you must be prepared to be able to really do something you love, because it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take a while, and if it is overnight, best become very good at what you do, because the quicker it comes, the quicker it can go. And I've seen that happen numerous occasions as well with business as well. But yeah, it's not easy, but again, if you love it and you have the commitment to do it, when you do go through the roadblocks and the hard times, when you come out the end of it, you will get rewarded the things in life that, I suppose, and I'm still not there yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. Don't get me wrong, but it's a journey. And I know that being present with it as well is really important, and to be grateful for what this life can give me now as well is so important as well. So
No,
important.
that's right. And I think your message there is very much, come into it with your eyes wide open. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to be hard work. You're going to have to, really hunker down. And I think
Yeah.
around about where you're kind of saying you're going to have to do a lot of soul searching as well in the first couple of years,
Oh,
because
I think so.
stuff
Yeah. And
like
you're so
self-doubt
right.
comes in and all the rest of it. That the head trash plays games with you and all that sort of stuff happens.
Yeah, and the imposter syndrome, I don't think ever goes. Like, we was the other day talking to a big company within our sector, and I'm speaking to the CEO of this company, and I remember seeing them on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh my god! And then I got to meet him the other day, and he's asking us for our advice, and I'm like, how did you get here? And it's like, no, you got here by this,
Yeah,
and you did this, and you did this. And it's a bit like, oh yeah, you almost, it's hard being in your head sometimes, because you don't realize sometimes how far you've even come. So
yeah.
it's this imposter syndrome is something that does prop up, and I can imagine a lot of business owners do get this sometimes, especially when they've come so far so quickly. But
Yeah.
to be able to really kind of ground yourself and say, no, I do deserve this. This is something that I have worked towards, and do you know what I mean? You do know your stuff. You've done your research. You've put your hours in, and now you're really ready to help. So I think sometimes when that does pop up, it's just about reaffirming who you are and making sure you still believe in that person that's allowed you to be where you are in the present moment as well. But
Yeah.
that can be hard. I do get that, not often, but it's something that does pop up quite a bit.
Yeah, and then pops up. It pops up with everybody.
Probably does for everyone, to be fair.
Absolutely for everybody. So I mean, you talk quite a bit of growth, in there. So what do you attribute your growth to?
For me personally, the reason why we have grown is like, we can't lie that the industry is in demand for what we do, and there's not enough people delivering it. So that is probably the number one reason. The number two reason of why we're so successful within that field as well is probably because of our vision in terms of what we believe reliability should be. We've never really stopped at the fact of just trying to provide a one level service. What we want to try to do is try to be able to offer more than just that one side. To be able to close the loop on reliability is a really cool way of thinking. It's not an easy thing to implement at first, because you have to be able to have a lot of knowledge and skills to be able to do it. But once you can organize them people together to work as a team, it can become a very successful path, because then you've got all the tools to be able to take a customer from A to finish. And when you do that, you get a lot of case studies, you get a lot of great work, you get a lot of, word of mouth is another thing when you're able to complete that loop, because people will talk to each other in the industry, say, no, they really helped us with that, guys, that they was able to take every step of the way and be able to deliver it. And I think when you get that type of, idea, which is a little bit different as well, and I think is within a lot of industries, you'll be involved with a business, and there'll be a lot of other, businesses offering what you offer. But it's, how do you package it up? How do you incorporate it all together?
You got to know your why. So look, how do you? I mean, obviously, business is a busy old place. How do you manage to balance your personal life and in around with the demands of the business?
It's hard. It's difficult. I mean, for me, because the growth has been so rapid the last 3 years, I have been working a lot. I have been working on building the business. When you're the guy essentially sometimes on site, as well as doing the fan balances, as well as going out doing the VA, doing the criticality studies, as well as trying to train the guys and all the rest, it is challenging. It has taken that, I ain't gonna lie, I have sacrificed a lot of my time to make this work. But the fact is, it's not going to be like this forever. We've created systems in place to be able to be more efficient. Like, at some point, it's not viable for me to do the fan balance. It's not viable for me to go out there and do don't get me wrong, it's definitely important for me to train the guys to the best of my ability. So training is a really important metric for me. But as time goes on, I need to now figure the best ways out for the customers, a new vision and new ideas. And it's Will's job to be able to look at the operations. How do we make them things really important and implemented and structured and to a place where it runs smoothly and efficiently? So, like, any business at the start is always going to be a sacrifice in terms of time. You're going to have to put it in because you just don't have the roles out there. You wear too many hats. I think at the start of the business, I was invoicing, I was finance. You got these departments in business, and I was like, that's me. Well, that's me. Well, that's me as well. You just don't have a choice when you're starting. But as you start to grow and scale it, as long as you've got a good strategy, you shouldn't be in them positions forever. It should start to, again, I'm not saying you spend all your time not on the business. You spend your time in different ways, but you make it work for you a little bit more as well. So if that means spending a bit more time with the kids and family, amazing that you can be able to do that from what you've built essentially. So
absolutely.
yeah, it's a bit of a sacrifice at first, but after a while, it's important that you get that time back, but you work on the right things. I think you'll agree. It's not efficient for me going out collecting VA data. I should be trying to inspire the next generation of engineering managers and reliability professionals to understand what the tech solve improve is.
Yeah, fantastic. No, great. I mean, great, absolutely great story. Will, I mean, it's the passion and I suppose the vision. I can hear the vision coming through in terms of where you want to get to. You clearly want to change this world that you're in.
Yeah, I think that's what drives me a little bit, and I think that's what's always driven me in terms of where we're at. Because I think from my experience from where we are, I feel like there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do, and for us to be able to get where we want to be sustainably, and I think manufacturing is a huge part to play in that. Do you know what I mean? In terms of where the future is and how we actually make this world a better place, it's a huge part to play in that. If we can make things more efficiently, if we can reduce our emissions, and if we can make things more sustainable, which reliability will bring if we do it correctly, it's just a huge impact on the world.
Yeah.
So I think where my current understanding of where we are at the minute to where we need to be, there's a big gap. So there's a lot of work to do, put it that way. And if we want to get there, I've got to get busy. I've got to get busy and try to be able to really not really focus on what the competitors do. And obviously, it's very important to know what your other businesses are doing in this space, of course, but more focused on that goal in terms of closing that gap and what can I do, what ideas do I have, what skills do we need to bring on to be able to close that gap and provide that value as well.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, and a lot of the stuff you've been talking about is going to be absolutely priceless for lots of business owners, whether they're starting up business or they're in business out there. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
But from my point of view, I just want to extend a massive thank you for giving up your time today.
No, thank you so much.
I've loved this conversation. It's been fantastic, and all the best in your future success.
Well, no, thank you for having me on, Martin, and I really appreciate the platform. But yeah, keep spreading your message out there as well, because what you're doing in these interviews and people listening to these things, like all it takes is one answer for someone that they're struggling with, and think of how much value that could bring them. So this is great. This is great for the community as well in networking. So keep up the great work as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
Brilliant. Take care, Martin.
Speak to you soon.